Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the English with Kirsty podcast. And today we are actually talking about podcasts, but not in the way that we have before. So previously I talked in episode 57 about how podcasts can help you to learn a language. And, if you're listening to this, you probably don't need to be convinced of that podcasts can help you. But if you do want to listen to that, I will link it from the show notes page, which is englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 57. And you can also scroll back to wherever you get your podcast to find the different ways in which podcasts can help you. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Today is about how you can choose the right ones, because obviously if you want to learn English, you can look for podcasts that help you to learn English. That's probably what most people have done here to find English with Kirsty. But it's not just podcasts about learning English that can help you. There are so many different types of podcasts around, and what is interesting and helpful for you will depend on what you're interested in, what kind of person you are. If I think about my feed, I have news podcasts, I have technology podcasts, I have podcasts about dogs because dogs are cool. I have podcasts for people who run their own businesses. And I've got a bunch of other stuff as well. But, it really depends who you are. My feed will look a lot different to other people's feeds. I have podcasts in 3 languages. English, because that's my native language. And, there are a lot of podcasts that I'm interested in English, but there are also German and Turkish ones as well. More German than Turkish because my German is a lot better than my Turkish. But I have 3 languages going on in my podcast feed. And so for you, if you want podcasts to help you with your English, it really depends on what kind of things you're interested in. Because if you're listening to something that you think is really boring, like if I listen to something about football for improving my German, I may learn some new words because I don't know any football vocabulary, because I think it's not very interesting for me. But I probably wouldn't stay focused. My mind would start to wander. I'd start doing other things because I just don't find that very interesting. So one of the key things here is if you're doing extra things that are not part of any course you're doing, that's something in your own time, then the really key thing is find something that will interest you, because then you'll stay with it longer. And so generally I think podcasts are overlooked because people immediately think, oh, listening skills, let's go to YouTube, let's go to Netflix, let's look at the subtitles and learn that way. But, podcasts are really good because they are about listening. And I've covered this already, but, you can take them wherever you're going. You don't have to have somewhere with a screen. You can be driving and listening to a podcast. You can be running, as long as you do all these things in a safe way. They are very portable and you can listen to them anywhere. You can repeat them. And sometimes I think they get a bit overlooked when people are looking at ways to improve their listening skills. So when you're choosing your podcast, what kind of English do you want to listen to? So it's not just the topic that we're talking about. It's, okay, what kind of English? My English is British English. Do you want to listen to British English? If you are working with a lot of people in, Canada or something like that, you may want to find some podcasts where people speak Canadian English, especially if you need to listen to the people at work and understand them. It may help you to find other people in podcasts who speak using that type of English, or Australian English or Indian English or something like that. The ones that people usually talk about are, British or American English, but there are so many other types of English too. And if you have a lot of contact with a certain type of English at work or socially, or because you want to travel to that country, then, look at podcasts where that kind of English is spoken. And if you're finding it difficult, you can also log into the podcast, like to iTunes from that country. And then the most popular podcast, there's a higher chance that those podcasts will be in that type of English if it's what people are listening to. It's not always the way, but if you're struggling to find things, then that's another way of doing it. But look for that kind of English and then narrow down your choices in terms of what the podcast is about. Do you want to listen to conversational English or do you want to listen to lectures? Because things like documentaries are often easier to listen to because they are people think about what they're going to say because they're presenting information. So often I had a student who said that watching documentaries or listening to them was easier than maybe a film or something because the speech there is sought out a lot more clearly. It's often scripted and the speech is slower, so it's easier to understand. Is that the kind of thing you want to listen to, or do you want something a bit more spontaneous, a bit more chatty? Maybe people don't know what they're going to say. Maybe they have a few points for their discussion, but they just see where the discussion takes them. And that will be harder because people maybe speak at the same time, they speak faster, they maybe interrupt each other, maybe they change their mind halfway through a sentence, what they're going to say, or maybe they say something that doesn't make sense and then they start again because they realize that what they were saying didn't make sense. So that's far less scripted, but more like day-to-day conversations. And it depends what you want to achieve with listening to podcasts. If you're going to listen to things at work, presentations at work perhaps, then the documentary style podcast will be good for that. Or if you want to learn vocabulary about a specific topic and you want to really focus on what's being said, then that's also quite good. If you can find something that's made a bit more, say, professionally, then you can find vocabulary on that topic. But if you want to understand your colleagues after a meeting, if everyone goes out for coffee or something or for dinner, then listening to more conversational English will help because that's more natural. It's more like natural speech. It's faster, words disappear, that kind of thing. So you will find that will help you with your listening skills. But again, it depends what you want to listen for. The length is important too because, okay, you can start and stop and you can carry on. You can get interrupted and go back to your place. Your podcast app will keep your place for you, but sometimes it's just too long. I have some podcasts on my feed that are 4 hours long. They're usually weekly story podcasts, but 4 hours is a lot of time to commit to something, even if you do as I do and play everything at double speed, which I'm not suggesting you do if you're just starting to learn English. But you can slow things down or speed things up, but if you find something that's 4 hours, that's going to feel really kind of a lot, quite overwhelming. So look at the time you have regularly. If you have a 15-minute walk to work, then maybe try and find something that's 15 minutes so that you can say, I listened to this whole podcast. Or you can, if you're driving to work and it takes 45 minutes, maybe find something that lasts 45 minutes so you don't have to think, oh, what am I going to listen to next? You can find things. And maybe you don't want to do it to work and from work. Maybe at the end of the day, you've had enough. You just want to put some music on. But if you can find things that feel manageable and not like 3 or 4 hours that just feel overwhelming, then that sometimes encourages you to listen to more and to stay at it. To think, okay, it's the morning, so I'm going to listen to a podcast and later on I can do something else. And think about how much time you have available as well, because I am really bad at this. I subscribe to far more than I can listen to, than any human being with 24 hours in the day can listen to, because I think, oh, that looks interesting. And at the end of the day, I don't have time to listen to everything I want to listen to. So I sometimes have a bit of a clear out and delete some of my subscriptions on my feed. I certainly don't listen to everything. So if there's something which is old, like news that's more than like 3 or 4 days old, I won't listen to. I'll just delete because that's old news now. We've got new news and I want to listen to that instead. If something doesn't interest me, like some of the, for example, technology podcasts that I listen to, some of the topics really interest me, others don't. And if it doesn't, I'm not just going to listen to it because it's there. I'm going to delete it and then free up my time for something else. So you have to be it's just like, I think of it as a shop window, so not as a reading list. I have to read every single thing on this list. But it's like a shop window. And if you like the look of something, you can buy it. You can consume that podcast episode. If you don't, into the bin with it, because otherwise it can get overwhelming. And also presenters play a role too, because if you're going to be listening to someone for however long, you want to be listening to a voice that you actually like listening to. I think there are several things to consider here. So do you like the content? Do you like the sound quality? I was listening to some interviews, and all, I'm not sure how they did it, but the interviews, the person who was doing the interview, you could hear them really well. The other person sounded like they were under the sea or something. And especially if you're learning another language, that's really hard. That's not an enjoyable listening experience, particularly if it's not your native language. So, that kind of thing does play a role. But more generally, people have different styles, different ways of presenting. And if somebody annoys you, like I can think of some people, not so much with podcasts, but like on YouTube, and I just think, oh, that's fine, but I can't listen to this person because it grates. I just don't like it. So, and that's not because they're a bad person or there's anything wrong. It's just I can't listen to them. It's the style is not right for me. So, listen to a bit of the podcast, find out what kind of people you like, whom you like listening to, whose voice is something that you think, yeah, I can listen to that, and not like, oh, this is either driving me crazy or sending me to sleep, because you don't want that either, because you won't learn if you're asleep. So there are lots of factors. It's not just the content, it's how it's presented. It's, do you like something where there's more than one person? Do you like something where there are different people every week? There are all these things to take into consideration, and your answers to these questions will help you to choose which kind of podcasts are right for you. And finally, your friends. What are your friends like? Maybe not all of your friends like podcasts, but if they do, then maybe they've got some really good suggestions for you. I've listened to things because other people have recommended them before, and I've been pleased about that because I enjoyed them. So, ask around and see what your friends like. And if you want to come in the Facebook group, I have a Facebook group for English with Kirsty. You do need to answer the questions in the group, because I want to know that you're a real person and not a bot or, a spammer or something like that. So you do need to answer the questions if you try to join the group, but you can do that by going to the show notes page. I'll add the link there. So englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 147. You can certainly do that and ask in there what other people like. Maybe tell people what kind of things you like and see if they have any suggestions for you based on those interests or subjects. So that's one way. Or maybe your own friends have ideas too. So, ask around and see if they have any recommendations for you. But also just try some out. I mean, it doesn't matter if you subscribe to, I don't know, 10 or something, and you only have time to listen to 3. Until you know which 3 you like out of the 10, subscribe to the 10 and then delete things, or listen to 10 or 15 minutes of each and then see which ones you like. Do remember to then unsubscribe from the ones you don't want to listen to, otherwise your feed will get really full, a bit like mine, and it might look a bit overwhelming. But, try things out, and maybe you'll find something that you'll enjoy. So, don't be afraid to do that, because unless you try a few out, you won't know what you like. Okay, so that's just a run through of how to find podcasts that would be good for you. The other one was about what they can do for you, number 57, whereas this episode is about what kind of things to think about, and when you're making your selection for podcasts. So just before I go, I wanted to mention 2 things for anyone who's new listening. The English with Kirsty site does have its own newsletter, so if you would like to sign up for that, you can do that on the show notes page. That comes out around once a month. Because English with Kirsty isn't just a podcast, there's a blog, there's other information just for subscribers, there's sometimes special offers, there's extra information and links to other places, other resources on the internet. So if you are interested in signing up for that, you can. And the other thing is something that's quite new to English with Kirsty. I now have a Christmas presents option, so that you can buy English lessons for somebody as a Christmas present, because Christmas is coming up, or it doesn't have to be Christmas. It can be birthday present, it can be, I don't know, Mother's Day present, it can be whatever you want it to be. It's just the idea is that it's a present for somebody. So mainly when I tell people about my lessons, it's because people want lessons for themselves. But if you have somebody that you would like to buy a present for, then there's also the option of doing that with English with Kirsty now. They can get a voucher for lessons. And this is just for adults because my lessons are only for adults. So if you have children or want to buy for children, then there are people in a better position to help them. But yeah, just to let you know that the presents are available now as vouchers, and I will also add links to the show notes page to show you where you can find more information about that. Okay, so that was about podcasts. If you have any favorite podcasts that you really like listening to or that you think have helped you with your English, let me know what they are, either in the comments section on the show notes page or send me an email to podcast@englishwithkirsty.com. So have a great week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.